It's my immortality to fight. Joyful sands all in the night. All these clashing shadows blend. Glory waits at battle's end. Ancient ruins witness fate. Waters meet at heaven's gate. Echoes of the past now scream. Mystic staff a wondrous dream. God's spy star in darkened skies. Victory will claim the prize. Rituals and power call. One will rise, the other fall. Flames and smoke, they light the air. Through the smoke, the war declare. Steps of islands trembling still. Heroes fight with iron will. Lost in ruins, battle drums. Twisted paths where chaos comes. Crimson stains on sacred stones. Power's hunger breaks the bonds. God's blood star in darkened skies. Victory will claim the prize. Rituals and power call. One will rise, the other fall. Bright star in darkened skies. Victory will claim the prize. Rituals and power call. One will rise, the other fall. Blazing smells, they light the air. Breathe the smoke of war declare. Steps of iron trembling still. Heroes fight with iron will. Lost in ruins, battle drums. Twisted paths where chaos comes. Crimson stains on sacred stones. Power's hunger breaks the bonds. The bonds. The bonds. God's black star in darkest skies. Victory will claim the prize. Rituals and power call. One will rise, the other fall. No magic limbs left a home for us to roam, with no goodbyes to give. Through divine gateways, we march through time to the place we call our own. A beauty so sublime. But darkness creeps, shadows spread. Once bright lands, now dread. Ancient trees, silently we will stand, brave and free. Return to Vera, strong and true. We'll fight the night, break the gloom. 1,000 years lost in despair, we rise again, our homes repair. Creeping corruption taints the air. Whispers of the past linger everywhere. We face the twilight with hearts folded in our
running routes.
What's going on, y'all? It's been a little while since I gone live. We've been busy for the last week or so, and so I haven't had an opportunity to go live. But today we're going to go live, and I'm here with Dr. Burns from the Copium Clinic. I always do your introduction, and I realized one day I don't need to speak for you. You can introduce yourself. So tell these folks who you are, where they can find you, all that stuff.
My name is Senor Burns. Sonny at Loreforge doesn't seem to think I'm a real doctor, and I am a real YouTube doctor. So that's okay. That's the best he's gonna get. Okay, but no, yeah, the Copium Clinic. It used to be Ashes of Relation. Didn't really care for that name. I didn't know how far my channel was gonna go, so I was like, let's just throw out whatever name I want at the time.
Stop. What did that even mean? I don't even know what that meant.
Yeah, there are several interpretations.
Okay.
The first being that this game is going to be so good that you are going to lose relationships over it.
Oh, okay. Okay.
It will create ashes of your relationships.
Gotcha.
But I mean, that wasn't. It was not very obvious. The fact that you even had to ask that is just proof that it was a bad name. So. Clinic, and I make YouTube videos, and I'm not active on Twitter, but I have one.
Hey, that's where I am. I just can't get active on Twitter. Like I have one. I know it's good for content creators.
I'm going out live. Like I'll go on once a week, once every other week, and I'll like a bunch of content creator posts. Hey, this is great, and then I won't go on for another week.
Yeah. Like I bet you right now, let's say Alpha 2 comes and my channel goes crazy and I have 50K subs by May or something, I'm still not going to fucking use Twitter. It's not going to happen. I'm still not going to use it. So, anyhow, today was a absolutely massive stream with, I mean, I will say I'm a little bit, there's some things I'm a little bit disappointed by.
Oh,
but in general, the overall was really, really good. And people getting to see kind of what the group content looks like, especially small group content. Because we've seen, this is the 4th world boss they've shown us.
The 4th? Okay.
The 4th, yes. There's the one from like 2020 with the 2 big tall guys, and they were doing that knockback that was like throwing them into the ocean.
Oh.
That was a world boss. And then,
okay.
And then they did the dragon at the that's in the siege, the castle sieges, and then Tumok, and then this one.
Oh, okay.
So so we have 4 raid bosses they've shown us, and we haven't seen a lot of small group go into dungeon and kill things. And we've seen some of it, but not with. I don't think we've seen any group of 8. Is that the first group of 8 we've ever seen?
What about during the Bard live stream? Did we see a group of 8 go into that little?
I can't remember.
Point of interest.
Yeah, I can't remember. I don't think it was a group of 8 either. So they had 1 tank, 2 fighters, 2 clerics, 1 mage, 1 ranger, and 1 bard. That was the group composition there.
Avian Wizard got it. They said 6.
Okay. Yeah, I think it was 6. So now we got to see 8 people in a raid, or not a. Okay, so let's get started with my disappointment. They used the word raid a lot in the lead up to this, and I really thought we were going to see our first raid, like not world boss raid, which is technically a raid.
Raid,
but
boss, yeah.
We have not seen anything at all from them in terms of like, 10 to 20 players, maybe leaning more towards 20, going into a point of interest like the Citadel of Steel Bloom. I was under the impression the Citadel of Steel Bloom was going to be like a raid, like a long form dungeon where you bring multiple people or whatever. And so what happened at the Citadel of Steel Bloom, while cool, was a little bit like, oh, that's it. We're just gonna kill one like mini boss and grab a thing, and then, I mean, the mechanics of that were pretty cool, but yeah.
What would have made a raid for you then?
Multiple bosses to start with.
Okay.
For me, it's hard. It's hard to call it a raid if the different bosses aren't checks on different aspects of the raid, and then the final one being a check on everything. So, for example, a lot of raids, like the first thing is a DPS check. If you can't out DPS the first boss, you need to leave. You're out of here. And then they usually have a heal check, and then there's usually a really complicated tank mechanic fight that's kind of like a tank check, and then your last 2 or 3, or even maybe sometimes just last boss is kind of a check on everything. And I enjoy that.
You know they're going to do that at some point, right? Because they've talked about some type of gatekeeper boss in the past, and that was even like a dev discussion question. So we know that's going to happen. But yeah, I see what you're saying. That was not the case with this one.
Right. And then Penumbra said boss mechanics, not just ads. Yes, like there was some mechanics in there, but it was pretty light. So as far as a raid is concerned, to me, this was light. This was not what I was really thinking. We were going to get our first like real experience of what raiding is going to be like in Ashes of Creation. However, given what they've shown us, I would say there's not going to be raiding other than world boss raiding, at least in phase 1 of Alpha 2.
Yeah, and I think they said I anticipate the instanced stuff being more finely tuned and being the more conventional raid, right? Yeah. That's my guess. That's just what I'm thinking. And didn't he say phase 3 for more instanced stuff?
I believe it is. I will say they have said in the past. We were having a big discussion on my Discord today about this. By the way, join my Discord if you haven't.
Okay. By the way, I recently joined Dylan's Discord. I know it's weird, but I just recently did. Solid dudes, really like it in there.
Yeah. It's a good place. We were having a conversation today about this, and they have said. In the past, Steven specifically has said that the instance stuff is going to be story based. What I think that they're going to do is we're going to be doing a story. There's, we don't know what that story is, or vaguely, and it's going to lead to some big, epic boss that you want to fight to kill, to finish out the story or to finish out a part of a story or whatever. And he wants you to be able to go do that without being messed with by other players. So I think that's what the instance. He said that the instance content is going to be story based. So I think that's what you're looking at. Is it's not going to be the hardest content in the world. It's not going to be tightly tuned. It probably isn't going to have DPS checks and tank checks and all that stuff. It's just going to be a place where you can go and be left largely or left completely alone to finish the story, to kill the big bad of the story this time.
So I hear what you're saying, but I don't want it to just be
yeah. I got you. I agree.
I respond with my emotion, Zillan. I don't I want there to be some instanced content. I want a few tightly, like very controlled engagements, right? Where it is finely tuned. I want a little bit of that. If anything, just to satiate a bunch of the World of Warcraft and WoW clone players.
Yes.
But also just because I think it would have very broad appeal if that were the case. I know a lot of open world stuff. I love open world stuff, but I think just having a little bit of instant stuff would go a long way.
Yes, no doubt about it. I mean, I'm right there with you. I have been making this argument for a while. I think that I have reserved myself. I've resigned myself. That's the word. I've resigned myself to it's not going to happen at launch. And at this point, because we're so far away from launch, I don't even want it to happen. Let's get this game out. But I think that there are ways, and I've made videos about this, I've talked about it live on stream and stuff. There are ways that they could implement that the World of Warcraft style raiding and dungeoneering without giving out the best gear for those things. Because I don't think you should be able to go into a raid where nobody can take your stuff, where you're risking nothing and get the best crap. I don't agree with that. I like hardcore raider, been a raider a long time, totally used to, because I'm a hardcore raider, I have the best gear on the server, and I'm totally willing to give that up. For for us to have that type of content, the competitive aspect of it, there needs to be something. There has to be some reward, but the best gear in the game shouldn't be the reward. Or I don't even think that you should get crafting materials that allow you to make the best gear in the game. No, you cannot get the best gear in the game by going into an instance and fighting stuff without any risk. But that's really, we're getting way off topic as far as what we're here for.
I think this is pretty relevant. It's pretty I'm okay if they're getting 90% of the way there, right? But it's not BIS.
Yes.
It's BIS adjacent, right?
Yeah.
I'm totally okay with some stuff like that. Vex was asking if that's been confirmed. With what you're saying, that it is only. I don't think it is. In fact, when I was
he used the word mostly. It is going to be mostly for story content. So you take 20% of the dungeons that are now, and then you take 80% of those out.
Well, it could be 51%. That's mostly.
This man here, you're gonna hit me with some semantics. But yeah, I guess technically he hadn't told us exactly, but he did say that mostly the content was going to be for story. And then I started thinking about it, like, why? What's the point of that? And then I realized, oh, you want to finish the story, and if you want to have a big epic world boss style fight to finish off the story. As a developer, you want to do that because you want to give that to the players, and you also want to give them an area where they can actually go do it, and not be.
Isn't that what this was? Like the Firebrand wasn't that exactly what you're describing? Just not instanced.
When I say story, I'm talking about like the main story of the game.
Oh,
so So you see what I'm saying? Like, so we have these. I don't know because we don't know what the story is, but maybe in the beginning of the game, we've come back. We're resettling Vera, blah blah blah, and one of the harbingers we find out is still around, and we have to take out one of the harbingers, and that's like the ending of the story for the first part of Ashes of Creation, like the first 6 months or whatever. So you want the players to be able to go do that, and like, can you imagine? I mean, I can already see it now. People are douchebags. If they find out that they can go stop you from completing the story, they will. So let people finish that's my interpretation of what he meant by saying this is going to be story only. I could be wrong. It's happened before.
And chat usually corrects us when we're wrong. So yeah. we appreciate chat.
Yes.
So, okay. They went into, first of all, my overall impression of it, I liked this stream a lot because we got zero bad news.
Okay.
In the past 6 months that we haven't gotten bad news.
Right. No, you're right about that. It's interesting that you say that because my plan, and it didn't happen this way because we got talking about other stuff. My plan was just to throw it to you and say, I want to know what you thought about this because you're not a PvE guy. You're looking at this game from a PvP perspective, from a competitive perspective. And so did anything you see here or saw here like do anything for you? Or does it make you want to participate in this stuff? Or is this like literally what you have to do to get gear so that you can go wreck people's faces? Like where are you on that scale?
And here's the problem with the castle system. If you own castles, you're going to get income that way. And my goal is to get income that way and not have to do this kind of content.
Okay.
So that's the passive income. That's what I want. Passive income.
You want the passive income. Okay.
No, I thought I do. There's PvP and then PvE for me. I am fine with PvE. I like doing, if it's new, like if there's a new dungeon, I'll go try it out. I'll go see how it is. And the cool thing about Ashes is that it's so broad, man. Like, sure, I'm going to be at Burnsville and that's going to be my node and I'm going to hang out there. But dude, Friday nights, me and the boys, we're going to want to go check all the way at the, Dunes and Kill Mountains. We're going to go want to see if there's a boss out there or something like that. So I'm down for the exploration, but what I don't like is the repetitive. Okay, now we're gonna do this dungeon for the 78th time, and we're gonna hope for this one drop, bro. That kind of stuff. It's like, I think PvP is the most dangerous game because humans adapt in ways that AI, up to this point, are not able to, and they make it way more interesting. That being said, I enjoyed seeing, I like the idea of the story arc that they roll up on the Citadel of the Steel Bloom. So what was it? Yeah,
Citadel of Steel Bloom. Yeah.
I thought it looked very nice. It gave Like, you kind of felt like it had a certain vibe to it. The architecture was all pretty consistent. I liked how the story arc augmented the mobs in that POI. I thought that was super cool.
Yes.
And it's like, it's more layered content, right? Like, it's just another example. I mean, we saw that with Carfin, where in that story arc, it brought a bunch of like ethereal guys in, and I thought that was cool. So this is just another example of that. And these mobs were more fire related, so super cool. In New World, they started adding augments to dungeons, and that brought a lot of people back because it was the same content just in a different way. And so having POIs, that normal content, but trying it with a new twist, I love that idea, and I think that's going to increase the replayability a lot.
Right. No, they absolutely will increase the replayability. And just for the record, I also don't like to do the same dungeon 78 times. I definitely don't like to do the same dungeon 78 times, and that's one of the problems as a primary PvE player, is that you do the dungeon once and it's incredible. The second time is still kind of fun. The third time you're like, okay, I've done this. And by like the fifth time, you're like, okay, this is over. I've completed this. We've done this. I can do this in my sleep. And it's like all 5 of those dungeon runs could take place on day 1 of the expansion. And now you got 6 months or 8 months or a year until there's new content. And that is one of the biggest problems of being a PvE player in general, is they can never keep up with your demands for content.
I feel like you're speaking from experience.
I am.
with Old Republic, especially, right? Because I mean, so you say you don't want to do dungeons 78 times, but I know you have.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I have. There. So some of the flashpoints in Old Republic I've done a billion times, and then the one specific raid is called the Dread Fortress. I bet you I've done that thing 1,000 times. Like, oh my god, it's crazy. We did it so much. But getting back to this, yeah, you're right that I've been saying this for a while now, that this is going to be a dynamic MMO. Like, there's never been a dynamic MMO. They're static. They're all the same thing at the same place all the time. Maybe you could say a dynamic MMO like Eve or Albion Online, which are like kind of big PvP games. And so it's dynamic because, like you said, you're fighting humans all the time. And so there's new metas forming and things are changing and stuff like that all the time amongst the PvPers. But a dynamic PvE MMO, it doesn't exist.
Yeah, right.
It doesn't exist. And so even New World, and I didn't like go hardcore into the augments to the dungeons, but what I did, they were so minor. Like,
they got major later, but it's still, I mean, bro, there were just a handful of dungeons to do. It's like, oh, okay, great. It's Laz this week, and it's ice and phalanx. Okay. It just was so blasé. If you just like had more content, small tweaks make a big difference. It makes a way bigger difference. I thought that was interesting. And Vex was saying, enemies need to be adaptive and random. That's why monster hunter fights can happen over and over and not bore people. Yeah, exactly.
Right. Penumbra just hit on something where I was about to go with. He said the same dungeons will have different corridors and different seasons, times of day, story arcs, and different mobs too. The same dungeon on a different server may be completely different in mobs and layout and more. The same dungeon on one server may be different tomorrow than it is today, because the season may change, or a node may get de-leveled, or whatever. So that's exactly what I'm talking about. And so you look at what you just said about the cold and the phalanx for New World augments. So I played Fallout 76 for quite some time, and people don't know this because everybody saw how crappy it was at launch and left, and so nobody ever went back. I did, and they've largely fixed that game, and they have a Fallout equivalent of rating, and they have augments, and it's the same kind of thing you're talking about. Today the change is this. The change is everything is immune to ranged combat, and so all that does is make you have to use it's not immune, they can't be killed by it. They can go down to 1%, but the final hit has to be a melee hit. And so now you're shooting stuff and running up to it and bashing it or whatever, and it's like it changes a little bit, but not really. And then there were certain ones that changed it where you were going to go get another character or change the build out of your character entirely just to do the new way the dungeon is in today, and it's like a 20-minute dungeon. So it's like, it's so silly. Where if you do it where they're talking about, where they're adaptive and random, so you don't know what the change is before you go in. It's not cold and phalanx this week, it's question mark and question mark. And then they're adaptive. They do different things based on the way you approach the fight. And then on top of that, the dungeons have different corridors and they're moving around and all that stuff. Now you're talking about something that is truly different every time you go in there. And that makes the content far, far more repeatable over time. And the crazy thing about that is it takes more development resources on the front end. You've got to get all that done before you go, but you save yourself because people aren't crying that they're out of content in one day. Like, I swear to God, developers don't realize that the overwhelming majority of like the PvE hardcores, the one you're trying to keep, they finish your new content that you've developed for last year in one day.
Yeah.
Maybe 5 days, you know.
That you have used in the past, they are locusts.
Yes. PvE players are locusts. There's no doubt about that. They consume the carcass of dead MMOs and then fly away and leave the dead carcass worse off than it was when they got there. Absolutely.
So I've got a question for you and chat to help me out. So was the dragon summoned because the end of the story arc? Is that how that worked?
I had a dishwasher being delivered to my house because my dishwasher broke the other day while all like that specific part. So I actually don't know what's going on right now. I was talking to the dishwasher guy and waiting for them to bring it all in and stuff. So I saw some of this and I was listening out of one ear and all that stuff. So I'm not really sure exactly what caused the dragon to spawn because the egg was taken, Penumbral says.
So the egg was taken. Was that as a result of the story arc? Would that have been possible? Okay. Steven talked about this in Jamie's stream after. This POI event won't always spawn the dragon. It depends on multiple variables. Interesting. I wonder what variables. And then, okay, Wizard says one of a few ways to summon dragon isn't yeah, okay.
That's what, yes, yep. And then it seemed like you could... The different ways you summon the dragon will get you a different dragon. It's not always the same. Like he was talking about that this one was a young adult, but there could be others. And it's funny because Ashes is a modification of Pathfinder, and Pathfinder has that system. Like the dragon's age matters, and like ancient dragons are absurdly more powerful than young adult dragons. Right. So we could be looking at, leading up to fighting these, crazy big time powerful dragons later on.
I like how there are different classifications of dragons, and I wonder if that in and of itself will be a type of augment to the dragons, right? Oh, hey, this time Firebrand shows up and he's older or whatever. Although the way that Steven talked about it made it sound like it was set, but I mean, the fact that they have a classification system for them is kind of cool because it means that they have the potential to play with that stuff.
Yeah.
So Firebrand might not always be, whatever.
Yeah.
A young adult dragon trying to prove it.
Yeah. Just reading the Divergent series and killing people. That's all young adults Firebrand does.
My question then is, so let's say, Firebrand drops some gear that's BIS for tanks, where nobody cares about tanks. Tanks are the most egotistical players, and everyone understands that. But let's say, for example, that you are tired of hearing your tank complain about not having any gear, so you want to spam Firebrand. Is there going to be a way to game that system to make Firebrand spawn super commonly, and so he's just flying in, landing, people kill him, flying in, landing, people kill him? What are your thoughts about that in chat?
If they allow that, it is a huge mistake.
How do you avoid it?
Well, number one, you can just have timers on how often the story arc can be done, or how often the story arc can end with that. I'm assuming the story arc can end different ways. so it can only end in the way that summons the dragon so often, or I don't know, but I made this video a long time ago. It's one of the worst videos I ever made. It's been unlisted on my channel. It's like 27 minutes long, and man, it's terrible. It's terrible video. Where I talk about, I'm trying to compare Ashes of Creation to the NFL, and I know this is a weird comparison, but in other sports, like in baseball, you're only excited for the season, and your team only really has a chance to win if you're in New York, LA, Chicago, Houston, Dallas, like the major markets. The Pirates are never going to win. They don't make enough money, and basketball is that way too, and all that stuff, where the NFL has the salary cap.
Yep.
And the salary cap creates parity, and it's not just the salary cap, the way that they do their draft picks, and there's a whole bunch of things they do, and it's like the NFL just kept putting their thumb on the scale and if it still wouldn't balance it, they pushed even harder, and they kept doing it and kept doing it, and they finally got to this point now where I don't care if you're Jacksonville and you're garbage last year, there's hope. There's hope. Atlanta almost won the Super Bowl the year after they went 2-14. Like this. Yeah. Every year it's up and down. And they did that by putting their thumb on the scale. And so I feel like a lot of MMO developers have been really hesitant to put their thumb on the scale. They don't want to be too draconian with like stopping players from acquiring gear really fast and getting things out of balance and all these things. And it's like, I want to see an MMO developer say, no, we're going to put our thumb on the scale. And that's what I think. I think Intrepid needs to do. I don't know. I don't have an idea, but they need to do whatever they have to do to make it where Envious and Inferium can't just spawn the dragon over and over and over and gear themselves all their entire guild to the nines and then overrun the server. Whatever they got to do.
So chat, I think they had a few ideas that. So Vex was saying, isn't there cooldowns? Yeah, likely. I would assume so. And then Abraham Wesley says, making the summoning hard and not guaranteed. So having a high barrier to entry to get it to spawn, which that makes sense, right? So you can't just keep farming it continually. Let's see.
Penumbra said the half of my videos are the worst video I've ever done. And that's just true. I know mathematically it doesn't work, but trust me, that's the way that it is.
Spencer, I asked him, so he was talking about how it didn't used to be that PvEers were locusts, that it was more about the journey. And I asked him how, and he said, I think Intrepid is part of the way there, making it PvX, focusing on dynamic world and events, emergent player driven content. Direct developer interaction in the world. I totally agree. So for example, I could be hitting Firebrand with my guild, and then your guild, Organized Chaos, walks up, and we, it's that interaction. We kind of look at each other like, we doing this? We going? We fight? Or it's like, hey, or we're gonna split this here. We're gonna help each other out and like start sending raid invites to each other.
Right. I mean, that's exactly how it's gonna go down, and that's dynamic player driven content, which is the words that he used. It's the words that Steven has used many times, and it's an offshoot of what I've been saying for 4 years now, that World of Warcraft came out in 2004 and was this world smashing crazy hit game, and every fucking MMO that's come out since then has been World of Warcraft with a different skin on it. They're all trying to capture the same thing. And so because of that, it doesn't matter if you're a World of Warcraft player. You could be a SwarmSword player, an ESO player, a Lotro player. Like, it doesn't matter. You are used to the same thing. They copied that in-game style. And it's like, how about we get a little innovation? How about we get something new and something different instead of trying to just ride on WoW's coattails? And so, like, a lot of people say, this game's the WoW killer, and I'm like, no, it's not. This is going to be a whole other thing. This is it's a WoW killer in the way of, like, they're not going to out WoW. They're going to make a new game, and nobody's going to out WoW. And so yes, I'm the dynamic player driven content. The dynamic is one of the key things there. That's how you stop things from getting stale. It's got to change.
You know what was so revolutionary about WoW, especially at the time, was how much content was there at launch. Just immense amounts. I mean, and we were still finding out more and more and more over time just because there was so much freaking content. And the continents were gigantic. There was some player-driven stuff back in vanilla, which was kind of fun. But I mean, the amount of content, and then all these other companies are like, oh, WoW, successful because they have instanced progressive raids and dungeons. So let's make a tenth of that content, but do it the way that WoW does it. And yeah, no wonder the game doesn't, like you said, it doesn't out WoW. I mean, the amount of content they had at launch was astounding. Intrepid is getting that right.
Yes.
They're not trying to follow the model of how they do their dungeons and how they formulate their content, but the volume of content is. So
yes.
This is the next step in. I think it's going to be even more content than WoW, because the dynamic, all the so many things being dynamic in it, that will make exponentially more content with it too, because it'll be so much more replayable.
So first off, Nemesis says, "Sup, good sir." So what's up, Nemesis? Thanks for stopping in. So let me. It's not just that there's a lot of content, because there is. I mean, one of my favorite Stevenisms is content is king.
Yep.
He realizes that you have to have lots of content to keep people coming back. But he also realizes that you have to make the players earn it, I guess is the best way to put it. But so, for example, I'm a citizen of Burnsville. I hang out in Burnsville, and because we've leveled Burnsville to level 4, the local dungeon that was just like 8 Minotaurs hanging around in there around some campfires, it got taken over by a goblin encampment. So now there's like goblins crawling all over the place. There's like a goblin king and some lieutenants and stuff like that. And so now this dungeon that used to be kind of a nothing place is now a full-on dungeon where it supports lots of players or whatever. And we go through it and we do it our, might take 50 times to go down every corridor and see it in every different season and fight every different boss that's in there and all that stuff. It's not 1 to 3 times before you're bored of it. It's maybe 20 or 30. Well, I'm going to be making a video, or I'm sorry, I'm in Burnsville. Okay. Q makes a video about this dungeon that's at Winstead, when they got Winstead just to rank 4 on their server, and this dungeon, and it drops this particular gear, and it's really incredible, it does this or that or whatever. On our server, Burnsville locked out Winstead. So now the players have to do something and go change the world in order to earn more content. The content is there. It's there for you to go get. You don't just have unfettered, nonstop access to all the same content that everyone else does. You have to go play the game to change the world. And so that's you can actually get by with having less content total if you do that, but they're not even doing that. They're still going crazy with the content and then making it very replayable and then making it where you can go make more content if you are skilled and have enough leadership and etc. to make it happen. So it's crazy.
Just like what Splinter was saying, that makes it more about the journey than the end goal.
Yes.
Let's say Q, or let's say there's some other guild wants to level Burnsville, but you got my guild and we got organized chaos there in Burnsville. We are defending our node because we get all the passive buffs from it.
Yes.
We got all those relics and stuff, and so we want to defend it. But all those other players who want that dungeon, those guys could be just like 95% PvEers, but in order to actually PvE to the fullest extent that they want to, they're going to have to become PvEers just for a little bit.
Yes.
Just to try to level Burnsville to see if they can do it. And then if they can, then boom, then they get the content. But it makes it so much more. And the workup to all of that is going to be awesome, right?
Yes.
The houses are going to have to come together. Like the video where you helped me voice the intro, right? The house, the great house, the PvE houses will have to come together. try to overthrow the Zerg PvP army.
Right. That's exactly right. And that's you're creating truly dynamic content when you do stuff like this. And this is the reason why I'm willing to wait on Ashes of Creation for as long as it takes. You know, we have, I mean, I don't know if you realize this, they gave us a launch window.
Bro, that's great. So we saw two somewhat conflicting things. Tell me what you're thinking of.
Well, they said that phase 3 is expected to last at least a year. So if phase 3 starts May 1st of 2025, then your launch window starts May 1st of 2026. Now, how big's that window? I don't know, but like you're not seeing this game until May 1st of 2026 as far as the launch is concerned. And I'm willing, but if it's May 1st of 2027, okay, I'm fine. I'm waiting. Yeah. Because this is going to be, it's crazy that Splinter used that terminology of the journey and destination, because one of the video titles that I have that I've never really put the script together correctly for it is Ashes of Creation will be a journey game, not a destination game, or something like that. And I planned on putting lots of Steve Perry blasting out, different journey songs or whatever through it. But yes.
And get away with copyright.
Yes, just little tiny ones. Yeah.
Have you even noticed that? I've been doing that in my videos.
Yeah,
lately.
you have been.
I got Kickstart My Heart. I had that in one of my videos. I was like, this is it was like a 10-second clip. We'll see how this goes. But yeah, it worked. Cracker says Bernzonians. Yes, I think that's what we will call ourselves, Bernzonians.
Yeah.
And Levi was saying, who in PvPs, the player's healthy enough to play at their best. Bro.
Oh, health is the new meta.
Degeneracy is old news. Degeneracy gets you arthritis. It slows you down mentally. If you want fast reflexes, if you want to be able to be the bard who has all the buffs up at the same time and has all those things going on, bro, you better have quick reflexes. You better be healthy. Healthy's the new meta.
I love it, man. So, and speaking of bards, dude, Bucky is good.
Oh yeah, bro. Yeah.
Bucky's so good, man. I'm watching it. So, and then the opposite of that.
Okay,
bro. Well, I know what Steven is doing. Okay, yes. I understand that he is like giving us a view and he's running in front of the dragon flames so you can see the dragon flames get blasted across and all that stuff. But like, let's just be honest here. One of the things we can definitively say from the stream today is that Firebrand can be done with 39 people. You don't need 40.
Yeah, true. I think Steven is a good healer, because when they walked into that Minotaur POI for that first time, I can't remember which. Oh, it was the cleric. It was the cleric live stream.
Yeah.
He was actually doing well. Like
yes.
He was like layering his heals and stuff, and he was doing a really good job with that. But yeah, I don't think that's what he was trying to do today. Also, the comms in the raid, I was just laughing, right? I mean, there was somebody, I'll get you. We'll do this.
The playing it up.
Yeah, it was so funny, man. If I was raid clear comms. Okay, here comes second. Like that. I thought about before I took over this guild in New World. Like there was this guild, they were really good, and we were just a bunch of freaking misfits. And we went up against them, and for whatever reason, the guild leader at the time put this girl as like consul, so second in charge. She's like making terrible call outs, and then at one point she announces that she killed a player from the other team. She goes, I killed Tilly. And she's all excited. And everyone who was like trying to rate like war call just stopped. And everyone just kind of collectively sighed like, this is where we are. Like we have a long ways to go. And then after that war, apparently all the leadership like had a mental boom and they all quit at the same time. And then me and the other officers looked together like, we taking this thing over? Yeah, let's take it over. That was the first thing we did. We fixed comms because the comms were terrible. Like, first of all, they were disrespectful. You've led comms before in a raid like Firebrand. How are you leading comms? Are you yelling, or are you are you just like an operator with it? What do you do?
Typically a tank. We know this already. And so as the tank, you're up front, you're seeing what's going on. I like to call out mechanics. as they're happening or before they happen. That is one of the big things, and we haven't gotten into this about how this dragon raid happened, but I was trying to pick up on patterns because that's how raiding works in WoW and its mini clones. I didn't see patterns. This is random. He does random attacks at random times. And so you can't be like, okay, the big triple circle thing is coming next. Everybody get ready. Okay, he's gonna stand up and strafe the group. Everybody, you can't do that. You have to, and like a lot of times that in these games, the boss will have like a channel of the name of the ability they're about to channel, so you can literally call it. You can read it and call it, and you're not gonna be able to do that. So you're gonna have to call things out in real time. Now I was quick. This is how my raid brain works. I was already trying to get to where I could recognize what he was doing to where I could call out the next attack, so that I could be as early as I could to let people know, hey, he's about to strafe or whatever. Just watching the video, I was already like trying to learn that, and so that's what I'd be doing. And I will say, we've said before on this stream, there are no solutions, there are only trade-offs, and I have found that for me personally, my friends, the environment that I want to foster, a really draconian, everybody shut the fuck up and nobody say a word and only the raid caller is saying something, just doesn't work for me. Like if you want, and now, okay, maybe in PvP it's a little bit different. Like calling out that you killed random person is probably a little far, but like, I like to laugh while we're raiding. I like to have a good time. So if you got a funny comment, like I'm not going to be like, shut up, don't say nothing on comms. Like I know a lot of people will. That's just how I am. I like it to be a little more light and a little more fun. So yeah, that's what I would do. I'd just be calling stuff out before it happens, or as far before it happens as I can. Remind people what they might need to do, especially if you got like new people or people who are new to the fight or whatever. What I found is that as your group gets more and more into the fight, you stop having to call stuff because they all see it and they've done it a million times. And but early on, you're definitely calling a lot of what to do and calling out for heals.
When I knew my army was going to make it in New World, because there was one war it was as we were improving. I mean, we're just warring constantly to get the reps in, and we lost against these guys, but the comms were minimal, because most of the comms were micro comms. It was just the groups chatting together and just, you could tell everyone was having a good time, but the big comms didn't need to be much. Everyone kind of understood the flow still. It was like, when like the center knows the quarterbacks, like when he touches cadence, exactly. That's what it was. Like he knows when good teams start to form together, they form chemistry. And
yes,
and I recognized we like the moment we hit that chemistry, because the comms didn't really need to be much. Like everyone knew their job. We were all adults. We were all striving towards a common goal. And afterwards, one of the guys was like, hey, there weren't many comms there. And I was like, yeah, how'd you feel about that? He's like, well, we all kind of knew what we were doing. I was like, no need. I mean, why preach to the choir if everyone knows what to do? So yeah, that is a fun part of, raid or, large scale PvP encounter. So listening to their comms in this was really funny, just because they were, it was all over the place.
It was all over the place. Wizzy says, I might actually like PvE if the bosses are adapting to the group. The whole reason I love PvP is because I don't know what is coming next. And yes, absolutely. That's I could totally get that. I'm glad a lot of people are going to be doing that. You want to hear a quick story about comms and when a leader learns what people need to hear or don't need to hear?
Yeah.
So there was this fight in that raid that I told you about earlier, Dread Fortress, that I did so many times. This is the last fight. Dreadmaster Brontis is the name of the fight. And on Nightmare difficulty, which is their version of Mythic, it's the hardest difficulty. That fight is extremely hard. Like, it's a little easier now because the scaling is out of whack. But back when it was fresh content, it was really, really hard. And they had some achievements that were related to killing it before a certain time. And then there's titles and stuff, and one of the best mounts in the game. The best mount in the game comes from killing that boss. And so my guild, we'd done everything else. We were just working hard on that, and we were struggling, man. Like I think we progged on that fight for like 4 months, like 3 nights a week, 2 or 3 hours at a time for months. It was insane. And there was one night we got it. We were a while. We were 2 months into this thing. We've been doing this a lot. And like it's one of those fights where it's about a 12 to 14 minute fight, and there's 8 people in a raid group, and you have to have 8 people be absolutely perfect for 12 to 14 minutes. Like you can't make a mistake or it wipes the group. You're done. And there was all this like same little mistakes, and I was like losing my cool a little bit. And in the past, I had lost my cool in raids and noticed that it just does. It's not helpful. Like I can be mad. It can help me get off my chest, whatever it is I need to say or whatever. But like it never improved the performance of the people that were there. And so it was about 30 minutes into a 4-hour raid night when I was so mad at the stupidest little mistake. People were making the same stupid little shit over and over and over again that I just shut my mic off. And I'm the guy who makes all the calls. Like I'm telling everybody. And we get. I think it was like 4 or 5 pulls in when people were like, I think Zilla might be done talking to us. And so they started making the calls themselves. And one of the things I learned from that is sometimes that is helpful because now they have to start paying attention and they're having to make the calls. And so now they see it more or whatever. And, but it didn't help. We still didn't down the boss for 3 more months. But, I tried. I did the best I could.
There's a mental component to that because think about like when a star player goes down on a football team or on a whatever team, and the rest of the team is like, oh shoot, we got to pick up the slack, right? And everyone starts executing at a higher level. Yeah, that's funny, man. Yeah. And dude, I bet at first, yes, this will be zerged, unavoidable, right? There is no way to. It will be zerged. It just won't be ideal, right? The reward is less because the loot it is a single loot drop, so you can bring 120 people, but 4 things are going to drop from that boss regardless of how many people you bring. So it's going to get zerged at first. However, I believe that over time the groups will get smaller and smaller and smaller because they're trying to optimize the risk reward to take on, okay, hey, we know we can kill it with 39 people. Let's try to bring 35 next time. Let's try to bring 32, right? So that number is going to keep getting lower and lower, and they're going to try to optimize that for the best possible ratio of risk versus reward.
Yeah, I said in my Discord today during the stream, I was already saying I want to do this with 20 people.
Yeah, right.
Like I'm already thinking about we're going to do this with 20 people.
I was really glad when they were talking about how the add-ons, how they're not allowing add-ons, they double down on that again. And it's, there was some moaning in the chat and stuff. I don't know if our chat here, if anyone wants add-ons, I would be surprised. But if anyone does, I'd be interested to hear if
Wizzy was begging for Deadly Boss mods earlier to tell her what to do next. She was absolutely begging for it.
I could see Wizzy doing that. But like, it was so good, like you were saying, how in some games it will say, "Hey, this is the next ability that's coming," or frickin' all the WoW mods that will say, "Stand in this circle at this time." Now stand in this circle at this time. No, you actually have to use your brain, and the shot color matters. The shot color actually has to.
Yes.
It will matter to have a good shot color or not.
That's how I built my reputation, bro.
Yeah,
seriously, on my server, in when my guild got started and we started doing all the raiding and all that stuff, you have to keep in mind SWTOR doesn't have add-ons. Like SWTOR raiding makes WoW raiding look like a fucking joke. Because WoW raiding, you're being told what to do at all times. Another reason is because let's say you need 150,000 total DPS from the whole group in order to clear the boss at the hardest difficulty. In WoW, it's capable to make 250,000 damage if you have a bunch of elite players. In SWTOR, 175,000, 165,000 is probably about the most you could get if 150 is what's needed to kill the boss. Like it's really tight, really tight. So, but so there's no add-on or no add-ons. There's no deadly boss mods. There's nothing telling you what to do next. And so I got what I was just telling you about earlier. I got good at seeing what was happening and being able to call it out on the stream while also performing my, not on stream, but on Discord, while also performing my mechanics. And that's how I built the reputation of my guild and everything on that game, was through that. And you're going to see more of that here, because there's, like you said, there's no add-ons. There's not going to be add-ons. You're not going to convince them to put add-ons in. It ain't happening.
Right. Yeah, thank goodness. I'm so glad they're sticking to their guns on that.
Yes.
Should we catch up on chat?
I mean, I've seen a lot of F add-ons.
Grab of the butt.
Yeah.
Says, watch the tail. There's always like little parts of that'll give a tell. Little parts of the boss that like will show, oh, okay, this mechanic is coming, and it's a matter of learning those.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Penumbra loves add-ons. That's what he said.
I like Grab of the Butt says he can't wait to wipe my guild of my 20-man raid and do it with 40. And I just want to point out that I'm not saying we won't have 40 people hanging around playing defense. Just making sure you don't come in, you know. But no, that's a good point. And that's one of the first things that was mentioned when I said I wanted to do it in my Discord, was people were like, well, then more people will just show up and wipe you and take you. And I'm like, that's, you know, maybe we do it at 3 a.m. You don't know. You don't know me.
Wesley wants to know, what do you healers think of rezzing right where you died? I like it. It's good. I think any other system I think would be suboptimal.
I disagree.
Tell me.
I disagree. What if you die in lava?
If you die in lava, you deserve to not be resurrected.
I see. Like what if you get knocked back into lava?
Sure. Yeah, with that kind of stuff, I can see that. Maybe from the edge of wherever, although the programming on that would be consistent. So,
where the healer is standing is what is kind of industry standard, and I think there's a reason for that.
So maybe but I kind of like going to it. It adds more realism to it. Maybe there's just a range, right? So if he's in lava, I mean, 10 meters, right? But this dragon moves all over the place, right?
Right.
And, I mean, 100 meters plus. Sorry, yards. I'm an American. Anyways, it moves hundreds of yards.
Yeah, I don't know. What the fuck is a meter?
So it's going all over the place. I like the idea of the healers having to be battlefield medics to run over to that spot to res. I think it adds a bit more immersion, adds a little bit more realism. And then also, like, you got to be accountable for where you die. Like maybe a knockback is a big deal. And if it knocks you into lava, good freaking luck, right? Like then you have to watch out for that mechanic more than anything else.
Hold on.
Know what's behind you.
Hold on, because there's PvP also. So like that. So like that's it. I don't think that you can do that. Like I get the idea that you have to run over and heal, and so I'm fine with a res with like a 10 freedom unit range, so that you can't just res from across the battlefield. I that's fine. Yeah. But I don't think that you should res where you died, because like Wizzy said, what if the boss drops lava that doesn't disappear? What if the boss drops lava that doesn't disappear and does so after you died but before your rest?
Sure. So
you didn't even die to the stupid, but now he dropped it. So no, I think you've got to be able to pull people out of it. Now you could also give. It could be a universal skill, so it could be anybody. It could even be a skill you have to put points into. Oh, nice. Coming in with a raid of 15 people, man. What's going on? Nice. I hope your stream went awesome.
Voices of Vera.
Yeah, the Voices of Vera. What you could give people a skill with, like, where they use a rope to pull. You could like pull a body and then res them where they stand. And that adds depth to the game, and I'm fine with that. But just resing them right where they stand, right where they died, has a lot of complications associated with it. So.
Nice and else, we were just talking, and Voices of Era, we were just talking about how the healers would have to go run over to where the person was downed to go res them. Yep. And we're saying, hey, if you get knocked back, or if like lava forms where you're downed, that could create a problem. So we were just talking about corpse dragging. Ooh, that's good. Wimrod.
That's what I was just saying. Era, thank you for the follow. Appreciate it, man. So yeah, that's what I was trying to say. I know you're a little distracted with the conversation and stuff, but if they added to the universal skill something you put a point in, which would like allowed you to have a lasso that you could use to pull a body out of a dangerous area, so that then you could res it, and then you could have it where you res where you died. But if you can't move the body, I can't see a scenario where you res where you die working out, because there's too many scenarios that could happen where you get caught in a chain of death. There's no way to get out of it.
True.
So, give the tank a corpse pull. Love it. Yes. And nice said that.
Yeah, I like that idea. I don't like, and we've already hit this, but it would be bad to have a res anywhere, because let's say you're being attacked by some my guild is being attacked by organized chaos. If I res a bunch of people that you guys had already passed over, they're going to be resing in your back line, which is stupid. That doesn't make any sense. That's a competitive advantage for getting trucked, right? Which doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. If you're going to do range, very much range, it has to spawn on the healer.
Yeah.
If you're going to have it where they res where they laid, number one, you need to run over to them, and number two, you need to be able to move the dead body in some kind of way. And corpse dragging is really good, and that just be another like layer of depth and complexity to the combat and what's going on, and having somebody who's smart about seeing there's a dead body in the lava, I gotta pull them out of there, then we can res them, that sort of thing. So that would be really good.
Bro, how about them talking about monster coins for the first time in how long? 3 years?
At least.
At least.
Like I was a little bit shocked to hear Margaret say the word monster coin. I was like, wait, what? So yeah, that whole, like, to me, that system is pie in the sky.
Why?
Because we've seen nothing of it. Like, it's so far in the future. Like, I'll say this. I mentioned this the other day, that they mentioned the whole AI of bosses and having an adaptive AI like 3 years ago, and haven't mentioned it one fucking time since then. And I'm like, so is that a real thing? And then boom, 3 years later, we get hit with it today. And it's like, yes, it's a real thing. And here's how it's already working. And here's what it's already doing, which we still haven't talked about, by the way, and we need to. So, I'm not saying it's never going to materialize, but right now I'm just like, we know nothing. It's so far away. Whatever.
I was talking to Planendorf and I were messaging about stuff, and I said, I can't remember what system it was about. He's like, what did you think of the stream? This is previously. And I was like, oh, I loved hearing that this system still exists. And he's like, what do you mean?
Yes.
And I was like, as followers of this game, we don't know what's going to be axed or not. We don't know what goes on behind the scenes. So when you have reinforcement of a system that they haven't talked about for years, and all of a sudden we hear about it again, and they act like it's perfectly natural. Yeah. If you watch Narc, the desert doesn't even exist, right? Because we haven't seen it recently. So,
I don't. So I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh yeah, we can't talk about that. But like having that be brought back, the discussion of Monster Coin, because I heard people say, "Oh, I don't think Monster Coin exists anymore. I think they took it out of the game." But bro, not only
I'm not trying to say they took it out of the game at all. Like, and somebody else has pointed out it was a Kickstarter thing. They can't remove it. It's a promise they made in Kickstarter. What I'm saying is that, like, I don't vague questions about the systems of that right now are like so far removed from what I care about. Like, we're great. Put it in, and we'll test it when you get it in. But I am not even thinking about monster coins right now. That's so far away. Fupo says the event system kind of would be how the monster coins would work in. Don't know why it would surprise it was still a thing. I'm not surprised it's still a thing at all. I was surprised to hear Margaret say the words because she hadn't said it in so long. And I've actually asked 3 or 4 monster coin questions in the Q&A that have never been picked up. So it's like I've always been like, are they avoiding? Especially because there's like some mild pay to win aspect to it. That people are accusing it of having or whatever. And so it's like, are they avoiding that because of that? And that's one of the biggest reasons why I thought they've avoided it, because you could make, we don't know because it's a theoretical system, but what we do know seems like you could.
Because the more you play the monster coin system, the better you get at the monster coin system.
Yeah.
Right? Because there is vertical progression in the monster coin system.
Yeah.
You get more abilities. You can choose different abilities as you go on. So, I mean, yeah, you're right.
It's got some pay to win aspects to it. And so I can see where they're doing that. So let's talk about this dragon fight. We haven't really talked much about it. So I was counting about 6 mechanics in the fight. So you have the tail whip, which is pretty simple, pretty straightforward. You have the 3 concentric rings of fire that it puts down on the ground. And I don't know if you noticed, but like you can move out of the first ring, the fire blast happens, and then move inside of that. And then the next ring happens behind you, and you're safe once the fire blast happens. So there's 3 rings that you could do that. There is the fire breath, where he just jumps to an area and just shoots fire in a big, huge area, which does a fuck ton of damage. There is the flyover strafe mechanic. And then there is, which was the coolest to me, when he summoned the ads. And so you think the ads are dangerous, but what was sick was after a certain amount of time, whatever ads were still left, he was drawing power from. It was increasing his enrage mechanic or whatever. That's what was happening there. So you've got to split off and go take out those ads, or he gets significantly more powerful.
Okay.
So that's the mechanics that I saw there.
Dude,
and Wispanor says,
Go
ahead. Oh, okay. Wispanor says, don't forget the dragon pounce. He jumped to a player. Yes, he would jump to a random player in the raid.
Bro, it was so sick with the ads and then the dragon flying over doing his strafing. That was so sick.
Yes. It was wild. And there's a lot of things going on. So as a hardcore raider, there were a few things that I noticed in this. The most important thing, the wildest thing, the thing that is so far removed from what the raiding community that exists in the world today is used to, is when, I don't remember who it was talking. It wasn't Steven, but they said that the fire breath attack was aimed at clusters of players. So as the world exists right now, raiding on Earth exists right now, it's all based on tables. And it's threat tables, healing tables, and damage tables. That's the only thing that they can program the boss to attack is who's number 1 on the threat chart, or somebody between 3 and 8 on the DPS chart or the threat chart or whatever. That way it doesn't attack the tanks, but it gets everybody. It can randomly get anybody else. Or they could do it proximity from the boss. There's some of that where if you're not within a few meters of the boss or whatever. But the boss being able to tell where the biggest cluster of players is, and then hit them with a fire blast breath that wrecked people. That is that adaptive AI that they were talking about. And so you mentioned earlier, somebody could bring 120 players and take this boss out. What if that boss does about 9 of those fire breaths in a row, aimed at the biggest cluster of players? Now you only got 40. It just takes out 80 players. What if you could take this even further, the AI even further? Like, yes, the number of players that are in the combat is the first thing, the easiest thing for the AI to go, there's 120 people here, this encounter is meant for 40, I need to do things to thin it out. But what if you're at Ethereum and you're freaking elite, like you're the badasses of the game, everybody knows it, and you bring 40 freaking badasses and the DPS is ridiculously high? And the game knows that, in order to beat the enrage timer, that, they need 150,000 total DPS, but they brought 250,000 because of how good they are. So now it spawns more and more and more of those wave ads to break the DPS off of the boss, because now they have to stop fighting the boss and go kill the ads. So it lowers the total DPS. So like the way you approach the fight can change. There's fights in Star Wars Old Republic where there's not a tank swap, and so a lot of teams will have their off tank switch to DPS and do a DPS roll and basically make the fight easy, because now you have 5 DPS instead of 4. well, now if the game determines that there's not 2 tanks here, something, this happens or that happens. They can change things around. So that adaptive AI is a big deal and can really change the way that we approach raiding all the way around, and could really revolutionize raiding across, well, I mean, it would have to be all new MMOs, but all new MMOs.
Dude, and I think, well, but the problem is you have to put in the work as a developer to make that happen.
Correct.
And it seems like game studios are averse to work now. They want to get minimum acceptable product, no new imagination. If it's difficult, I'm allergic to doing it. Think about the programming that goes into something like that, right? So it has to have a heat map. The dragon has to have access to the heat map of where every player is at the same time. Now,
yes.
With the Eye of Shoal, with the that server, the Indeed posting, right? The network engineer Indeed posting, also known as the server mesh live stream, that showed that it follows where you are it knows on a 2D map where you are. Iraj brought up a good point.
2D or 3D?
What about 3D? What if there are plane changes?
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
So that'll be something worth playing with to see. Like, hey, what if, we have a cluster, but half are low, half are high? Like, is it just going to try? But anyways, the programming for this is difficult, and it pushes the envelope, just like what you said. I think it's worth emphasizing how special stuff like this is, because I don't know of an MMO that has gone through the work of doing this much detail.
Right. The work that they're putting in, to me, is one of, if not the most impressive thing about Intrepid right now. It is so obvious that the care and the thought and the level of detail that they're putting into everything. Like, can we just talk for a second about the dragon's idle animations? When Steven was standing over there by the lined up army that was going to go fight, and he was just looking off at the dragon, and so it wasn't doing anything, but it was standing over there and it was like flexing its wings and moving around, and like, it was incredible. Like, there's nothing like that exists in any current MMO. Like little stuff like that. You don't have to do that. The boss doesn't need to have an idle animation in order for you to launch a successful game. You could not do it, but they've done it. The sound design was incredible. I would say almost everything about that fight was incredible. There was one glaring problem, and a few people have pointed this out. I don't know if you noticed it. I didn't notice it, but I've seen about 20 people in different places talking about it. So it definitely, it's got to be a thing. Apparently the fire animation was like seriously flickering really, really fast. And maybe people who have different, like, because people's eyes are different, like they notice it more than I did. But apparently the flickering of the fire was pretty bad.
That's interesting. So,
but other than that, an animation problem, and it's something that can be fixed. For sure. But other than that, man, the different range of mechanics that he had, that flying away and strafing is not only is it awesome from a mechanic standpoint and just fun to deal with, it looks incredible. Incredible. So yeah, I was disappointed by the Citadel of the Steel Bloom because I thought we were going to get a raid. I thought we were going to get more than what we got. Kind of cool. Need more. But the dragon fight was awesome. And if you take that with the Tumok fight and combine it with I wish I could remember the names, those two giant, tall, wooden treant-like bosses that they showed back in like 2020, which was also a really cool and like different world boss. Like, they definitely have good ideas for world bosses. I think they're going to be fun. I think the world bosses are going to be a lot of fun. Fire was in the keep, not the dragon. Oh, people were complaining about fire in the keep.
Interesting. About the fire flickering and the braziers in the castle. I wonder if things getting transitioned from Unreal Engine 4 to 5, if there are still some lingering issues from that.
With what?
Transitioning from Unreal Engine 4 to Unreal Engine 5.
I would hope not. It's been 2.5 years ago.
bro, the amount of assets that they had
Yeah,
already.
yeah.
You watch those all. They already had a lot of stuff, and that they've had to move over.
Yeah. Nuclear Tango jumped in and said, yeah, Nuke. It's not crazy difficult fight for a raid boss, especially when you can zerg it down. We were just talking about that, Nuke. I don't know that you're going to be able to zerg it down. They said that fire breath, which was wrecking people who stood in that fire breath were getting huge chunks of their life taken out. That aims at the largest clusters of people, which is an AI thing. And so if you were to bring lots of players, it would just do that fire breath a lot. Like it would knock your numbers back down to a manageable number. Like I got to tell you, I've been planning and working on making this video about Ashes of Creation being an anti-zerging MMO, and I wish I had done so by now, because it would have seemed prophetic after a lot of things that were done and said in this stream. Like I was calling on exactly what that thing about the AoE taking out large numbers. Right. Steven used the words anti-zerging in this stream, and I was like, oh my god. So yeah, I don't know that you're going to be able to zerg this thing down. But we need to get an alpha 2 and test it. I would be very disappointed if they launched the game with the ability for 120 people to be able to just show up and take this boss out in 12 seconds and move on with their lives.
I really like how they're not making it a bullet sponge, right? More people show up and they don't change the HP of the dragon based on how many people are there, for a few reasons. First of all, it's a potential grief spot. So if me and Afirim walk by and we see organized chaos fighting Firebrand, and we really don't like organized chaos, but we don't have enough guys with us to actually stop you guys, we could go take a few shots at the dragon, and if more people attacking it increased its HP, that would be us griefing you, right?
Yeah, I don't like the idea of that at all. Change. The boss needs to do different things, not increase its damage or increase its health. It needs to do different things mechanically based on the way you approach the fight, whether it's through numbers, or you bring in a bunch of elite players, or you find some kind of way where that you can use 4 tanks instead of 3, and you can help avert some mechanic, or whatever. People are going to figure shit like that out, and so what they need to be able to do is have counters to those things that the boss can do when it determines that certain things are happening. So
yeah. And I mean, you could still show up with 1 million people, but if they suck, I mean, you saw how quickly people were dying.
Yes.
Right. And,
yes.
And Steven, like chat pointed out, Steven was God mode. If Steven hadn't been God mode,
they would have wiped.
He would have been dead. They would have wiped 100%.
They would have wiped
because
100%.
He was a little res bot running around.
Yes. Now he's level 25, and everybody was level 20. So they were a little under. They were a little under geared and a little under leveled. For what they, what the intention of the boss or whatever is. But either way, yes, you're hopefully this AI system that they've been talking about for 3 years actually makes it where the fights are fun and interesting and engaging and adaptive, dynamic. They change. That's what we're going for. Steven wasn't healing either.
Yes, Fubbo brings up a good point. If you have, because the player-to-player collision, it could actually block you, right? And you could. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, and Steven's. I think Steven had mana regen turned up or something, because it seemed like he always had mana to res with, and in the past I remember resing seemed to take a lot of mana, but. How do we feel about combat res being spammable? Do you have a take on that, Burns?
The spam. I mean, so they said, right, that it's going to cost a ton of mana, and that the cooldown is going to be relatively high on it. So in game, I don't think it's going to be spammable. I think just for this purpose it was, and I like that too, because healing, the most powerful ability in any game is healing. You have to be able to attack, obviously, but to be able to restore HP is, in my opinion, the strongest ability in any game.
Yes.
And to be able to bring someone back from 0 HP, non-existent, to existing is a big deal, and it should be a big deal when you do it.
Yes.
If you can just spam it constantly, it makes it not as big of a deal. It would be cool to do a bunch of like CDR cooldown reduction stuff to see how quickly you could become a res bot, like to push that limit, like how far can I go, how many reses per minute or reses per 5 minutes you can get off, something like that. But I think it's a big deal, so it should be treated like as such. What do you think?
In general, they straight up said like we're playing with it, like we're going to change things. So I don't even consider battle resing to be spammable right now. Like it's Schrodinger's battle res. It's both spammable and not spammable right now. Like we don't fucking know. So that, like, I'm not really worried about that. I'll tell you one thing though that stood out to me. If you think about this is encouraging for a hardcore PvE player like myself who wants difficulty in combat. Those 40 people that are on the screen right now, pretty much a collection of the 40 people who've played the most Ashes of Creation on Earth.
True.
So they're the most experienced group of people that have played that game. And if it weren't for Steven in God mode, they would have wiped. Like, they didn't just go, we've been playing this game off and on for however long PI's been testing or whatever. So we're just going to go mollywop the boss and move on. Like, it was difficult. It was hard, even for people who've been playing a lot, who, once we all get into Ashes, and this is one of the things that's going to be interesting, we all kind of have our MMOs that we've played and you've spent some time on, and you got your UI how you want it and the controls where you want them and all that stuff. We're all going to spend a lot of time trying to figure that out, because it's going to be a totally new experience for us. Hotkeys are going to be different. We're going to have hotkeys that you don't have in other games, like stuff like that. So those first couple of weeks, I think people are going to be really just trying to figure out like how to control your character, how to move, what buttons, getting the muscle memory, all that stuff. But those 40 people we just saw, they've already done all that.
Yeah. Right.
So they weren't worried about that.
Right.
Yeah.
Planendorf and what's his name? Quaternium Slurp, they've said it. Like, when they're watching streams, sometimes they have the stream on one screen and they're playing Ashes on another. So
yeah,
they're getting that muscle memory down now already.
Yep. Yes, they are. That's exactly what they're doing. So first off, I hate them. let's just get that out of the way. But yeah, I'm just excited for difficult rating.
Yeah.
I mean, this difficulty is different than what I am used to as a raider, right? But maybe that's a good thing, because I've kind of mastered the other thing. So it's like, let's move on to something different. So without having the raid where there's 10 bosses and 1 point of interest, like Nuclear Tango said, is probably not going to exist. And I agree. Without having that, this looks like the next best thing. And I'm really excited to get in the game and do whatever you have to do with this, steal the egg in the Citadel, steal bloom or whatever to spawn this guy, and then take him out with 20 people, because 40 is the pussy way to do it.
Bro, what did you think about when they were talking about the system with if two groups come up to, let's say my guild is attacking it, and then organized chaos, you guys and your drunkenness roll up on the dragon, like, and you want to take it, that because my guys got the first hit on it, that counts as you get a modifier for that, for doing that first hit, and then otherwise it's just damage. Yeah. That whoever applies the most damage. What were your thoughts on that?
That's a loaded question a little bit. I've thought about. Yeah,
you should be on Bespoke at some point.
You know what? You should invite me on Bespoke. I think I'd do okay on that show. So I've thought a lot about this. I remember. Did you ever play Rift?
No.
Okay, so the whole Rift is World of Warcraft, and they added one new thing, which were rifts, which were these tears in the sky. They're big circular areas. There was events, just like the event system that Ashes has. They were like the first game to really have those, and they like built the whole game around this one mechanic. How you performed in the rift determined your ranking of like, it gave you a ranking at the end, and you got loot based on your performance.
Okay.
Well, what if you're a tank? You're not doing any damn damage. They didn't fucking complete the thing without you. But you were 9th out of 9 performance-wise. So there's that. From that perspective, I'm always like, that kind of sucks that damage is like the only thing that you can. But when you really sit down and think about it, I've never thought of a better system. a way to incorporate. Like,
I had one thought.
Okay, go ahead.
I think they should add damage dealt by the dragon to whoever. That should also be a consideration.
Damage dealt by the dragon. So the group that takes the most damage from the dragon. And that kind of helps too, because you almost don't want to be the ones that start the fight, because then you'll have aggro and you'll be dealing with a lot of healing and extra stuff, where if you don't, then you could just jump in and just go ham on DPS because they're the one. That's not terrible. I don't at this very second, I can't think of any way to game that and and exploit it, but
there is a little bit of a way to game it, right? You don't get out of the way of AoEs intentionally, but then the problem is then you're getting killed.
Yes.
Right? And
yes.
And then it becomes a game of, let's get hurt a little bit. How good is my healer? Is my healer good enough to bring me back up? So I think it could be a decent add to that. Who gets the loot, the single loot drop? Who gets that? Adding in damage taken by the boss, I think would be another good metric.
Yeah, that's not bad. But in general, I do like the 10% boost for the group that goes first.
Agreed.
I think that's a smart way to do it. And because I have accepted the fact that damage is kind of the thing that they use to judge these things, and like, what if you, like, could you include damage mitigated? Like the boss did 10 million damage, but you mitigated 3 million of it.
Sure.
Like I don't know. Judging it purely on damage seems a little, I guess, biased towards towards DPS, I guess is the way to put it. But in general, I'm fine. I've accepted that over the years. So yeah, whatever. But don't get me wrong. I plan on rolling with guys who can put out some fucking DPS. So we're gonna be just fine. Let's get that out the way.
Planet just dropped in.
Yeah,
and Planadorf, Zillan was just saying he hates you.
I do,
because you get to play Ashes almost anytime you want, from what we understand.
Right.
And he's incredibly jealous. And Planadorf, were you in this? Did we see him in this?
He was not in here. Here, think about it. Think about his performance the last time we saw him on stream. Do you want him in this Dragon Raid?
Bro, his healing position was Biss. In that Node War stream, he was healing from like bushes and like these little shacks. He's like, you just see this little rainbow flare up from a shack, and they're like, hey, there's someone crapping or healing in that shack. And of course the Rangers came and wrecked him. But yes.
So number one, Arctic Elysium, thank you for gifting a sub to Planendorf. I appreciate it. But Planendorf straight up said he got kicked from the raid after the Node stream, the Node War stream. Oh, that's too funny, man. He got 2 responses of wow shots fired. That's funny. Wizzy says, I'm oddly excited about single or minimal loot dropping in a game where BOE is minimal. It'll make the economy a real game. Yes. So again, I am so disappointed with myself that I didn't make this video. I needed to make the video because I talked specifically about personalized loot, how personalized, like PvP zerging has been a plague on MMOs for 20 years plus, but PvE zerging is like a new phenomenon that is a result of personalized loot being added to every game. And one of the many reasons that Ashley Creation is going to be an anti-zerging MMO is because of the personalized loot. You're not going to just roll with 300 people running around opening chests, and every time you open a chest, you have a 1%. Like, that's end game. That's not going to fucking happen in Ashes of Creation.
Right.
And so you're not going to be zerging that way. You're not. People are like, oh, we'll just show up with 160 people. Okay, you're going to split 4 items amongst 160 people, and there's no fast travel. They can't just zoom there, do the raid, and then zoom back to where they were. They got to make the trek all the way over there. So it's not. This game is not going. I'm telling you, people aren't going to be killing this boss with 160 people. I'm predicting it right now.
What I thought was a little strange, but I think it's because what's in the game right now is how we only saw gear drop. Steven addressed that and said, hey, we are going to see some materials drop from that.
Sure.
My preference, though, is that it's more materials than items, because that makes the game so much more social then, right? Then you're like, oh, hey, whatever system you use to divvy up the loot, DKP or whatever. Then those materials go to the people who want those materials. And what's better about materials than loot is that materials can have broad application. Let's say Firebrand drops a dragon scale. That dragon scale could be the rate limiting step in multiple things. You could want it as a tank. I could want it as a cleric, right? Maybe it's the rate limiting step in some shield, but it's also the rate limiting step in a Bis healer chest piece, right? Yeah. And so it can have broad application. Whereas if you're just dropping freaking gear, that's not Bis. That's not what I want. That is Bis for one person, one type of build, and that's it. And then there's no reliance on other people. There's no social interactions that you get. What's so cool about the crafting system is how it turns you into a social person, because it's like, oh, I got this. Now I have to take it to a refiner, and then I have to go, find some other guys who can get me some resources, and then they can craft. I can then go. I have to go to Burnsville, and I have to wade through all the shanties and all the shacks and the hobos there, and then they can make me my gear. I can find the best artisan, and maybe you strike up a relationship with them. Maybe you have multiple of those scales, and you have this crafter. You develop a business relationship with this crafter. Hey, you make this for me. I'm going to sell this extra dragon scale item that you made for me, and then there's some kind of profit sharing there or something like that. It makes it super social and everyone way more interconnected. Love that.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. I had been under the impression that crafted or completed or what finished gear pieces would not be dropping from these bosses. It would be materials that you could then take back to your node. And like you said, go through that. That's one of the coolest aspects of this game is the social aspect of, like you said, I got a dragon scale. Now I got to find somebody who can refine it. Once I got to talk to 20 people to find somebody who can refine it. Once I find somebody who can refine it and do it for the price, and they're close enough, because your node doesn't have a refining station that's capable of refining a dragon scale. You got to travel to another node, and there's no fast travel, by the way. You got to freaking walk there, or run there, and take that scale with you, and be risking losing that scale the whole way over there, and then talk to that guy, and then once he processes it for you, now you got to find somebody who's in a node that has the right crafting station to turn that into something, and then you got to take it all the way over there, risking that process thing the whole way over there. So that's the social aspect of the game is exactly. That's why I'm excited. Bringing the social, the MMO back to MMO, the massively. I'm absolutely excited about that. I did want to do what now?
Levi brought up a really good point before we move on. He said, Stephen also talked about dismantling the gear to get rare mats needed for crafting. So PvE, PvP, and crafter will all be after the drops, which makes sense.
Right? That's great.
I think that's a really good system, and it creates a bit of a knowledge gap too, because you're going to have to know what a specific piece of armor degrades into, and so to roll on it, right, or to spend your DKP on that item. So
which means you're going to have to which means you're going to have to intentionally go dismantle gear that you won the roll on just to see what it drops. So yeah,
I'm all about knowledge gaps and stuff. I think that's awesome.
Yeah,
I'm really glad that my prescription got to Planendorf. The get good suppositories got to Planendorf. Although the problem is you're not supposed to take it if you're already a Chad in PvP, as my lawyer Sonny, who did the audio for that. Yeah, he did the voiceover. So Planendorf, maybe you're just already a Chad in PvP. That's maybe that's why you're experiencing those side effects.
That's funny. So something happened that's pretty funny that kind of goes into this whole crafting and mats and stuff like that, and gear, the DKP system and all that stuff. And it's one of those things where there's just so many people who, they see the pretty. They see the live streams, they see the Asmongold video and just see how pretty it is. They're excited about Ashes of Creation for that. They're not following the game closely, or there's people who are following the game closely and they're still not getting A to B on how these systems are going to work. And I'll give you an example. So in my guild, I fucking love you guys. We love you too, man. In my guild, we had a big discussion about gear drops. What system is Organized Chaos going to use for gear drops? I personally use a modified version of the Suicide Kings system. That's what I do. Okay. There are no solutions. There are only trade-offs. There's a famous forum thread on, I think it's the WoW forums, but I can't remember. And the name of the thread is "Tell me your gear system, and I'll tell you why it sucks." Like, there isn't a good one. They all have flaws. So whatever.
Sure.
But one of the things that people in my guild who follow Ashes of Creation, who bought into Alpha 2 before this last wave, like they have been following it, we're talking about, were you just going to put it on Master Loot and send everything back to the guild bank? Yeah. And then we'll divvy it up later? And I'm like, bro, you're going to have to carry that shit across the world back to your node and risking it the entire time. There ain't going to be no fucking sending it back. So there are a lot of systems, a lot of things that people aren't thinking about how they're going to impact our game and what we do. Mail it to your alt. That's another thing. You're not going to be able to mail crap to your alt, because otherwise you could just mail gear across the fucking server and ignore the entire caravan system. It's not going to happen. That's exactly what I'm talking about. People are not thinking about how far you have to go in order to make things like risk versus reward and the caravan system and traveling with gear and all that stuff be actually dangerous and be something that you can't just circumvent. And so, I don't know. It's just interesting to me that even people who are following it closely don't get it. So can you imagine what the people who aren't following it closely, who just watch Asmongold's monthly, or Narc's monthly wrap up, they don't really know, they're not really following this stuff, they're going to be in for a culture shock.
I like Iraj said, there's a problem with getting the loot because it's less risk if you get the completed loot to then go dismantle it. And maybe that's a good thing, though. I like having the item, because if you get killed with completed gear, you're not going to drop the completed gear unless you're corrupt. And so maybe if there's a scale that drops, or there's a shield that you can degrade, which guarantees a scale drop, you pick the shield, right? But there has to be some risk involved with it. So who knows what happens. But I plan to make plenty of videos talking about crafting stuff, because yes, I love PvP, all about PvP, but you can't be an effective PvPer if you're you have to be a good crafter, a good artisan to be the best PvPer possible. And so I'm going to make a lot of artisan stuff, because what things degrade into, my guess is there's going to be a percent chance, and there are going to be tables with that, and that will be fascinating to discover.
Yes, I agree. So I missed someone redeeming, Levi redeeming a pun a pun thing. My punishment cam that I have set up is not right now for a couple of different reasons. So I'm just gonna have to go to a normal face cam situation. So I'm gonna switch over real quick and
punishment cam, is this do we need to change what type of stream this is?
It's
what is a
pun
cam?
dash ishment cam. So one of my channel rewards is basically you force me to read puns live on stream. And so
you force Dylan to get in a hot tub and he writes your name on his body while he's planet
Indoor. Yes. So I'm going to jump to a different camera really fast and do that. I'm gonna do that. So enjoy this nonsense. Time flies like an arrow. Fruit flies like a banana. Which country's capital has the fastest growing population? Ireland. Every day it's Dublin. I don't know why y'all do this to me. I don't know why y'all push this button. Last night, I dreamed I was swimming in an ocean of orange soda, but it was just a fantasy. I just bought a thesaurus from the bookstore. When I got home, all the pages were blank. There are no words to describe how angry I am. I'm disappointed in you, Levi. We're back, I guess, after that nonsense. Why do people push the button? Why? You don't have to. Like, it's a joke. You're not supposed to hit it.
I think I would prefer a hot tub.
You would rather me be writing Planendorf on my ass in a hot tub than read the puns? Okay.
I mean, if I can have both, I'd probably have that if I have them with. Well, I mean, and one thing that I talked with Peon, right, from the Hidden Dagger Inn.
Yeah.
You know how he does like the chicken dances and stuff?
Oh, no, I haven't seen that.
Oh man, that interrupts the stream and it destroys any vibe. But hey,
Yep.
it is interesting. Okay.
So let me tell you, during Alpha 1, they, I was new to streaming, very new to streaming, and I had a big audience. I was shocked at how many people showed up to watch me in Alpha 1. And so I started going, okay, I need to come up with something to make it a show. Like I don't want to just stream just to stream. Like I want to make a show. And so I started thinking of ideas, and I came up with that one day, like literally like 5 seconds before I went live. I was like, oh, here's a channel point reward I can add. And I made it like 500 points or something like that. And I did like a 4-hour stream, and I swear to God, 3/4 of it was just me reading puns. Like they just clicked it over and over and over and over again. So I had to go in and make it expensive and make it where it could only be redeemed so many times per stream, and et cetera, et cetera. People like the puns. I don't know why. Yeah. But
do you mind if I ask you in chat a question about something that came up in Q&A?
Yeah. I know you had mentioned earlier that there was some interesting stuff in Q&A. So go ahead.
So first of all, the questions that they picked for Q&A this week were the best out of
3 years. There has not been a better set of questions since I've been following the live streams. Period.
These were great questions. So
yeah.
I liked when they talked about vassals being able to attack a parent node, and I liked the discussion behind it. So because you got a little peek into their design philosophy and their design ideas about it. So Steven said the goal, or said something to the effect of they want to play with the levers to see what it's like if they can ever get a vassal node and its citizens to be okay with being vassalized? And my question to you, Zillan, and chat is, if you were to be a vassal of a larger node, meaning your node cannot progress further than your parent node can progress, you are limited by their growth, what could possibly make you okay with being vassalized?
That is a really, really good question. The very first thing that comes to my mind, just kind of without giving it much thought, is that you, Dr. Burns, would never accept that. You're too sweaty. You would never accept that.
I don't know what you're saying. I don't know what you're talking about.
Like, when you say that you don't know what I'm talking about, you're talking about the entire concept of accepting things. That's what you don't understand. Like, those words don't go in that order for you. I get it. I understand. I'm pretty damn competitive myself. So I think that some of your lesser nodes, especially like level 3 and 4 nodes that are locked out, are going to be populated by people who, it's a pretty game. They just want to do animal husbandry. They want to get with their friends and go chop trees and fight goblins every once in a while. Like, they're not going to be as competitive. Another aspect, and this is one of the things we've talked about before, that's very dangerous. If Intrepid doesn't find a way to, force people to understand how important the node system is, because a lot of people are going to be coming in this game and have no clue how nodes work. And it's so important to their character. Intrepid needs to find a way to, like, that's that thumb on the scale thing that I was talking about earlier. They have to be heavy-handed about that. But if they don't, you could have a bunch of people who live in a level 3 and level 4 node that are vassalized. They don't even know. They don't know they're vassalized. They have no clue. Whatever. As long as
vote for you.
Yeah,
like that situation. They don't even think about it.
Right. So the next thing why you might be okay being vassalized. Let's say you've lived in 4 level 3 or 4 nodes in the last 6 months, and inevitably some big guild comes along, raids your shit, takes out your node's gone, you've had to pick up all your stuff, relocate, learn a new area, become a member of a new area, like all that stuff, and you're just sick of it. And so you're fine being vassalized by a big giant guild, essentially, node, for the protection of, look, my stuff is safe, my freehold is safe, I'm not going to be starting over again. So from that perspective, you could want to be vassalized, or not want to, be okay with. I think be okay with is a much better term than want it. Be okay with it is better.
Because there's protection that comes.
There's protection.
Along with
yes.
It. Oh man, damn, Zillan, that's good.
Yeah. So that's where I would go with that.
You are a smart man, and those answers were fantastic. That was good. Let's see what chat has to say. AV says Vasselinized. We mean vassalized. We don't mean covered in Vaseline. That is Zillan's. If you get 10,000,
actually, getting Vasselinized too many times would be why you'd be okay with being vassalized.
Oh, jeez. Okay. Penumbral says buffs. Okay, so like relics. If you want a specific passive benefit from a relic, you could pick a node that has that specific buff. So okay, fair. Lower taxes, good point. Yeah, because those higher nodes, they'll be able to adjust their taxes. Maybe I'd be interested to see if, like, at a level 3 node, if you can tax up to 5%, and then at a level 4 node, maybe you can tax up to 7%. Like, if the potential to get taxed, kind of like in real life, right? I'm in a state with very, very little taxes, but there are very few people. Planendorf is in a state with very, very high taxes, and there are a lot of people in that state. Yeah. So, okay. There is precedent for that, so that'd be interesting. So
Wizzy hit the nail on the head, hit the ball of the park. Players who have freeholds and focus on crafting will want to be vassalized. 100%. Think there's not that many freeholds. Just getting a freehold is going to be difficult, expensive, time consuming. There's going to be a certain amount of luck involved, etc. Hell yes, vassalize my node and protect me, daddy.
Vassalize and Vassalinize.
Yes, yes.
Housing possibility. So Fupo is saying with housing. So yeah, because there's going to be limited in-node, non-instanced housing.
Yep.
And maybe there's a possibility that a smaller node has better housing available. The ability to use the larger node services is what Crackers says.
Yep.
So if you're down the tree, you're down lower on the pyramid, you can still use the services from up there. Interesting.
Yeah. Crackers with that one. Give vassals the ability to use higher end crafting stations of the top tier node. That would also help with them making it okay. I don't like it, but I'm okay with it.
So, but then that means excluding people. So if you are not a citizen of that node or its vassalship, you are not allowed to go in there and use those crafting tables.
Correct, and that's the way it should be.
Okay. Yeah, and there's been hinting at that. I would like to see a little bit more information on that. There has been discussion on that in the past. When I was doing research for my node video, I almost talked about that, but the video was over 20 minutes, so I figured I would not.
Yeah. Galwood says smaller nodes may also be better for gatherers due to less player density and smaller node boundaries. Maybe. Penumbra is pointing out that the fire here in this part of the video is what they were talking about. Let's see. I can back it up just a little bit. So watch the fire right there. That's pretty fast. That can be slowed down.
Oh, I see that. Sure. Yeah.
Planendorf, get on that. Your fire flickers too fast. Get it done.
Planendorf asked, how far is too far for players to actively seek being vassalized, to being a vassal? Like if players sandbag their node leveling, is that too far? That's interesting.
Ooh.
So you're saying the opposite direction, where you want to get vassalized. Well, I think just based on the nature and the design of the system itself, I think it's a level of still being okay with being vassalized. Because I don't think it's ideal. You don't get to choose. You don't get to vote on stuff if you're not a citizen of that node that's larger and expanding. So for example, you got Burnsville and you got Miralith, right? Both level 4. If Burnsville hits level 5 and vassalizes Miralith, the Miralethians don't get to vote on the things that the citizens of Burnsville get to vote on. They're still affected by it, right? But they don't actually have direct control over that. So it's taxation without representation, right? They're being like forced to pay taxes to their parent, but they're not getting a say in what their parent does. So I think just the nature of the system itself, how it's been set up, I would be surprised if there is a point that if it does come to a point where people want to be vassalized. What do you think about that? You agree with that?
Yes. So the question he asked was, how far is too far for players to actively seek being a vassal, like sandbagging their own node? Is that their own node leveling? Is that too far? And I would say yes. If you create a system where people figure out in Alpha 2 that the meta is to sandbag your node leveling so that you could be you could be Ethereum's vassal, essentially, right? Then you've gone too far. That's the point. You need to back up 3 steps and get it right. Like I don't want it to be a situation where you're ever like trying to make it happen. Like I said, want to is too far. Okay is I'm okay with it. I will tolerate it because of the safety that it provides, because of my access to their stations or whatever it is that they allow us to have. That I'll tolerate it, but I will never like try to make it happen. That's where I would draw the line.
Yeah.
Also, I'd like to point out that when Planendorf asks questions like that in chat, it's kind of cool because I can pretty much guarantee you that's a conversation that's happened in Interpret Studio. So it's always fun to I get to throw my little. It's like I'm in the room with Steven right now.
get a little bit of an inside peek at some of the things that go on there. Penumbral said, yeah, if you're in the middle of two large guilds, you might be choosing which one you want to vassal you. So yeah, I mean, if you want to get vassalized by organized chaos because they're nice people and they have fun in raids, whereas my guild is not going to be any fun and we're going to tell you to clear comms because you're saying dumb things. I can understand wanting to choose one versus the other.
Right. Yeah. And I'll also point out though that in that situation, you're not sandbagging your own node. You're trying to stop one of them from getting up so that you can end up vassalized by the other. That's not the same thing. That's not sandbagging your own node. So that's a perfect scenario where like Planendorf, that's the spot. That's the sweet spot right there. We're right where we need to be.
So one thing I was thinking about with this is if you have a type of vertical progression within your node. So node reputation, node like there are certain things that get you game mechanics that get you invested into your node. So for example, like housing ownership is an example of that. Freehold ownership. If you are a patron node of the guild and that is a form of vertical progression with your node. I really like how they have a lot of systems, and I think having lots of systems where there is the longer you're with your node, the more vertical progression is, the more attached you get to your node, I think is a very good thing to have, because then you have allegiance to your node and you're not going to go, level you're not going to go help run town boards for your neighboring node because you want to get vassalized by them, right? Like you have a vested interest, you have stakes in your node progressing because you get to continually vertically progress in that node. I think is also a good thing for the system.
In the commission system, they did show us a currency that's like a node specific currency, and I don't, or it may have just been a node currency generally. I don't know if you can spin that at any node, or if like there's a Winstead node currency and a Miraleth node currency, and on and on and on. So yeah, that's another system like that where if it is specific to your node, like you'll want to run those commissions, the mayoral commissions, to get that currency so that you can spend that currency on at your node. So I want to take a little bit of a detour here. Wim Rajin says, what stops you from being from just joining the best/strongest node? A few people hit him with the housing limits, and I just do want to take a second to explain that.
Good.
So you have to own housing on the node in order to become a citizen of the node. And there are multiple types of housing. There is on node housing, so that's inside of the city. Houses that are there, they're static. You can see them. You can walk up to other people's houses. People can walk up to your house, etc. It's actually on the node. It's not instanced. So there's only the node's only so big, so there'll only be so many of those. There's freeholds, which exist on the node proper, which is the size of the territory essentially. That are going to be very limited and very expensive and all that stuff. That's also one. And then there is, technically there's 4 types. The third type is instant, like apartments. And in order for a node to get more apartments, the mayor has to use up the plots that could be used for other things, for crafting stations, upgraded crafting stations, stuff like that, to build more node housing, instance node housing. So in that way, they have limited how much housing there is available on any given node, so you can't all just become citizens of the biggest and strongest node. So that's how that works.
You know what the big guilds are going to do, right? They're going to go full boomer, and they're going to be like, hey, no building anymore. They're going to try to limit the number of houses in their nodes so their property values go up. That's what they're going to do. We're already here. They're gonna pull the biggest boomer move ever. They're gonna be like, we're here, we're established, screw them kids, right? Like, no, we are not going to expand any more housing because we want our values to go up.
Yeah, I'm already thinking about changing the name of my guild to HOA. So, I mean, we're gonna be real serious, and I'm gonna be taking a tape measure to everybody's house on the node and making sure their grass is below a certain number of inches and all that. Yeah, we're
Good.
Arctic Elysium says you stop that right now.
In New World, there came a point after devs weren't doing several things right, where people would write messages on their houses, and it was kind of instance housing, right? So there were, let's say 10 houses you could buy throughout a city. If you had the highest housing points for that month or whatever, then your house was the one that was displayed. So people would try to get as many housing points as they could, and they would write fairly obscene messages with on the outside of their houses. And several of the messages were about AGS, and I thought that was. The housing blew me away in New World because it was just freaking it was generic, it was ugly, the decorations were stupid. I couldn't believe how many freaking people were obsessed with housing. So there was, do you know about the goldfish?
No.
Bro, the rarest drop in the game is not like this amazing life staff, this gigantic sword, big shield. It is goldfish in a porcelain bowl is the rarest drop in the game. It is a housing drop that does nothing. It just sits there, but it's the biggest flex you can do in game because for some people, it wasn't me. But because and it would go for more than gold cap. It was crazy how many people just become obsessed with housing. So I think the better the housing system is with the nodes, that is a huge end game loop for an odd number of people, and I'm sure a very odd subsect of the population.
Yeah, there are people who believe that fashion is the real end game,
yeah.
And there are people who believe that interior design is the real end game. So, we're going there. I do want to point out Mabari said Kratom-matic in chat there. In SWTOR, the rarest drop in the game is a Kratom-matic. It's like a 0.0001% chance. There might not be 40 of them in the entire game. Literally, all it does is turn your character into a little crate. That's it. As soon as you move it, breaks it. It does nothing. I think every mob in the entire game has a chance to drop it, but the drop chance is practically nothing. I've experienced the useless rare item like that. Auxiliary asked, did either of you play Ultima Online? Auxiliary Ultima Online was my first MMO. I started playing that game in 1998. However, I bought the box for it in 1996, but didn't have access to a computer that could run it until 1998. So, yes, I played the shit out of UO back in the day.
Zillan had graduated college several years prior to that.
Oh, give me. Damn, this man's calling me old. I wasn't even born in 96. I feel young. Yeah.
Hey, that's good. We like having grab of the butt says my New World house looked like a warehouse with crap everywhere. Mine was the exact same. Yeah. It looked like a crack addict's house. It wasn't a crack house, it was a crack home, right? I definitely did not have goldfish in a porcelain bowl. That did not happen in my houses. No.
I want to point out Thymus just said hi and then said, "Oh my lord, I caught a stream." So I guess you've been missing the streams, probably watching the replays. Welcome in. Thanks for stopping in and hanging out with us. I really do appreciate it.
Thymus, an important part of an important part of the body. Although that's spelled like the thighs. I was thinking the thigh. Anyways.
Okay, stop. I'm a doctor, and I have to do everything I can to point out that I'm a doctor at every opportunity.
Back in med school, let me tell you a med school story while we're at it.
Yeah. I'm sure you have plenty of med school stories.
I can sprinkle med school stories in whenever you want, Zillan. Happy to do that. Fupo says, "Be nice to us elderly people." I'm not a gerontologist. I'm sorry. I have no sympathy. If anything, if I was actually going to interact with patients on a regular basis, peds, I feel bad for kids when they get sick. Old people, you lived a good life.
You lived a good life. Good God. Well, so okay, here's the question: what's your cutoff for old?
It's relative. I can see based on your scan, I know more about yourself than you know about yourself. If I see a CT chest, abdomen, pelvis, and maybe head of Zillan with contrast, I will be able to tell you how you've lived and like a lot of detail about it.
Oh,
And so it all depends. I mean, it all depends on,
oh,
what
okay.
maybe, I don't know, 70, 80, 90, somewhere around there, based on how you lived.
Okay, 70, 80, 90. Okay. So 70. 70 is the point at which to dock, within reason, you could just die and it'd be fine.
I mean, I would be, if I know you, I'd be disappointed. But there comes a point when, like over this last weekend, I worked 45 hours between Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And it came a point where it's nice. The nature of my work is because I don't have to care about you. I just see your study, and irrespective of my feelings towards you, I just say what you have and what you don't, right?
Yeah.
Hey, you got cancer there, you got cancer everywhere, or you don't. And that's it's nice. I'm able to jive with that a little bit. Yeah, and Auxiliary makes a good point. He says, was it a good life though if they haven't played Ashes yet? Fantastic point. People should be able to live for a long time.
People should be able to play Ashes of Creation for a long time.
Yes.
And when I say people, I mean me, and I specifically don't mean Planendorf and Fupo, who are just playing without me all the time, apparently. So, yeah.
Planendorf is accurate. Not sad, disappointed. Yep. You should have done better. 70? Scrub.
Scrub.
Yeah, man. Penumbral says it just right. Brother died at 28. Every day is a bonus day. Hell
Yep.
yeah.
Yeah. I've always said every single day I wake up breathing's a good day. That's just how I look at it. I always have. Fupo says, so what is the next live stream? Guesses?
Oh,
what do you think?
So we got a hint. So I listened to this part twice because I listened to the live stream again after when I was working out after my job.
Nerd.
Sorry.
My job as a doctor.
I have to fit it in an awkward place. I have to shoehorn that in now because you were making fun of me. So yeah, I was listening to it again because so Margaret said she's like the next live streams will be much different than what they've been. Did you hear that line?
No.
Yeah, she said they will be much different than what we've heard. And then she started talking about other player in terms of like player engagement and stuff. And so I was very interested to hear that. And I was wondering if there's going to be something with the, the pre-alpha 2 testers, the elite class of lucky jerk pre-alpha 2 testers.
Yeah, I hate those guys.
Might be involved somehow, or more PI or something like that. Yeah, Galwood. Yeah. Galwood said, yeah, she mentioned something about the community, so maybe something in game. Yeah, exactly. I don't know what, but it's gonna be. I think it'll be more community. There will be a lot of things with the community that we get to see, which would be cool. How about
That's
you guys?
interesting. Well, so we're a month away from it, obviously. And it's going to be different, and it's going to involve community engagement. You know what? I don't know. It's a good damn question. I don't know. What do you think? Do you have any thoughts?
Oh, like what it's going to be?
What it could be?
It's going to be something for like that will be in phase 1. It's not going to be, what I want it to be? I want it to be the freaking genetics, because they talked about it again in the Q&A, right? They were talking about the animal husbandry and how Bucky is engineering this. I thought it was interesting, though, to hear that it's not even done on the design board yet, though. The way that they were talking about it, Steven said that there is design yet to be done on the animal husbandry genetic side of things, which I was like, oh,
We're so far away from that.
Yeah, right. I was like, oh, that's it's still a ways off, and I was a little disappointed because I'm very interested in that because I'm a doctor.
because you're a doctor.
That's
okay.
I would want it to be that, but I don't think it is. So
let's what do they need to show us? What do we still need to see before Alpha 2? The Last Rabbit, thank you for the follow. Appreciate it.
Something from Phase 1. Let's look that up. Oh, I've got it. Yeah, chat, what you guys think?
Like treasure maps? We don't really know much about treasure maps, and that's on the list for Phase 1.
Oh, dude, and they could make it like a community event or something like that, where people are all hunting for the treasure. That'd be cool.
Wizzy says we need to see taxes. No, don't need to what? Don't.
Hey, Sonny.
Yeah, right. Rogue and treasure maps. There is synergy. Well, I don't think we're gonna see Rogue, especially not with the hints that they gave. Maybe an 8v8 tourney and they clip together people's comms? Galwood says. More on crafting or the corruption system?
Oh, dude, I love crafting. Give me that.
Planador says LMAO just explaining the 56 tax brackets in a 3-hour stream. Oh my god. I almost fell asleep just reading that just now. Oh my god.
Sonny would love that. Oh, by the way, the Loreforge boys got a shout out.
They sure did. They got that was
man.
I think that was the most hardcore shout out that's ever happened on the live streams. Like I remember one time Nice asked a question. They were like, "Oh, Nice is one of our fellow content creators, a nice guy." That was pretty much it.
And Margaret was like, "I love your content, Nice. You make such great content, Nice."
Yeah, but they were just like, here's some stuff we're going to talk about that's going to make this one specific group of content creators super happy, and let's call them out. Like, it was so just ugh. I was happy for those guys. And they actually use their names, that developer doesn't just know who Lord Forged is and that's it. He has to be watching because he knows the names of all 3 people that were there. So yeah, that was very cool to see that happen for them.
So Phase 1 stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a bunch of POIs, day-night cycle. Let's see, dynamic reward tables. 5 node locations to level 3. Let's see what. Oh, marketplace. So buy orders. Wait. How can there be buy orders if there's no auction house?
I think the buy orders are for the mayors.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, yep, that makes sense.
Galwood says some dev is like, shout out to my homies in Lord Forged.
and none of them, by the way, I pinged them all. None of them were watching it live. I was like, guys, you just got shouted out. Yeah, so treasure maps.
Are the constellations in Wave 1? Auxiliary is asking.
Yeah, so level 25 for artisan professions, maybe.
Yeah.
Surveying. Bro, I would love to see surveying.
Surveying is one of the things I'm the most interested in for this game that we have gotten so little info on. That's a lie. I'm interested in all of it. You don't matter. Whatever you want to. I'll even watch the 56 tax bracket stream. It's fine. I'll watch all of them.
Yeah, I think the anything from Guild Wars are
hold on one second, man. Planador says he has to get out of here. We're gonna have to catch the VOD of this. Internal temp too high. Allow it to cool. we just lost Burns. Planador, thanks for coming and hanging out with us, man. We definitely talked about some of the more stuff about this specific stream and all that stuff before you got here. So yeah, check it out. And can't wait to actually play the game with you sometime in 2027. Wizzy says, "Oh, I know, official merch, 3-hour reveal, make it happen." That's really fun. Your mic's still good, right? You can still talk. Nope. We lost him. For Burns is gone, guys. He's gone. Oh, I heard him come through on the mic. I think he's actually getting up and trying to get a cord and stuff.
Okay, just let me switch to my
auxiliary. So Steven said in Discord that constellations are in phase 3. That's another system that we kind of like surveying. That it's like, oh, here's a system in the game that's going to affect the way that you play, but we're just going to just breeze right past it, and we'll talk about it, in a year, 2 or 3, whatever. Talk about it when we're ready.
There we go. Backup, baby.
Backup cam. That's
backup
funny.
cam. Hey, check out my little. I just put these were at the behest of the Loreforged guys because they are all sound junkies. That's bass catcher. So I have that in all 4 corners to catch because when I'm talking, it'll like reflect and bounce around and make my audio quality suck. So, anyways.
Wizzy says, "R.I.P. Doc. He didn't make it to 70."
hey, lived a good life. Okay, although I didn't get to play Ashes.
You didn't get to play Ashes. Oh man, can you imagine living in a world where you don't get to play Ashes? That sounds. I don't want to live there at all.
Wispnor, I was actually getting ready for the hot tub section of the stream, and things just got a little too spicy.
Yeah, and that happens. Thymus says this is what happens when I catch the stream. No, Thymus, if you've been watching replays of my streams, you know that I've had every audio issue in the world. It's only been about the last 4 or 5 that I think I got the audio situation done. I'm terrified to like reboot my computer or update anything. I don't want to do anything. That's funny. Auxiliary says, honestly, there are so many systems, it's got to be a nightmare implementing them without breaking all the others, or imbalancing them, or players finding ways to metafy is the word that wants to come into my mind, but find ways to break it or take advantage of it, exploit it. That's the good word, exploit. One system that somebody figures out something in the constellation system that breaks the node system and makes it really easy for them to do whatever, and now you're like having to go back and redo, and it's a nightmare, absolute nightmare. So do you have anything else about this particular stream that we watched that you wanted to talk about? I know that you had a list of notes there.
Yeah, I was just looking over that, and I think we went over. I mean, we talked about individualized looting and all that stuff, and I think we got to most of. I mean, Bucky as a bard, he was really good.
Yeah, I said that earlier, but yes, he was ridiculous. Like he was just somebody said something about he was like a superhero or something, just sliding all over the place and bubbling people, and and like, does bard gameplay not look kind of fun?
Yeah, dude, it looks good. And what's interesting is too, with there are the dances, which are true AoE abilities, so they'll affect more than just your group, right?
Yep.
So in a raid or large scale PvP situation, you're going to want your bards to spec heavily into dances so that they get more positive effect on than just their the other 7 guys in their group, right? So they're affecting potentially 20 plus guys with those dances, and so yeah, that'll be. It's just another example of how there won't be the meta for oh look, that's the meta bard build. Yeah, for what, right? Like if the guy's just doing small scale dungeons and stuff, sure, there's a meta for that. If he's doing large scale PvP, there's a meta for that. If he's doing, if he's just a housing main, there's a meta for that. Stuff like that. There are multiple metas for different things, and sure, there will probably be a best build for each of those individual things, but that will change over time too. But there are so many of those things that there's not going to be this ever-present, super scary boogeyman of the meta.
Right. Yeah, I mean, the way that they've described the meta, and that they want to do micro metas where you're meta in one thing or another, rather than macro meta, which is where you're just kind of biss at everything. So yeah, that's The Last Rabbit says what's going to be the constellation system, some kind of buff. And I mean, in general, your guess is as good as mine. He mentioned that there were going to be constellations in the sky. Looking at constellations and determining what those constellations are is going to afford you some type of buff, but like we don't really know what or how or what you're going to do. Like it's some kind of buff. That's it. That's all we got. Penumbral says the constellation system will alter the dungeons. I mean, I don't remember him saying that, but Penumbral lives, hangs on every word that Steven says. If Penumbral says he said it, he probably said it.
Take your word for it.
Yeah. Gear, skill trees, weapon trees, religion, etc. will make meta builds so difficult. Yes. And I've made videos on that topic. It's one of my kind of pet cats. That not only are metas going to be difficult, people aren't going to have access to all the same gear, the same dungeons, so you're not even going to be able to follow somebody else's meta. I think it's much more likely that metas will be regional. Some guy in your area is going to figure out something, and he's going to kind of dominate that area and kick everybody's ass in that area for a while, and then people will figure out how to counter that, and then people will figure out how to counter the counter, and on and on and on. But because the guy who figured out the thing that started kicking everybody's ass had access to a dungeon that's in your part of the world that the other part of the world doesn't have access to, they don't have that piece of gear that synergize so well with some ability he has that made him the meta in his region for a short while. So yeah, I'm grabbing the butt. You're 100% accurate on that. Auxiliary says, dude, we haven't even seen the naval system. It's overwhelming to think about. Yep. And that's where we are. Like there's just so many systems that are out there that we don't know anything about, but we're just going to keep watching the live streams and hope we learn some more.
Guild Wars, the next live stream, that's another possibility because that's phase 1 and we haven't seen anything about Guild Wars yet. And I would assume it's a somewhat similar system to Node Wars, but we don't really know yet.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Do you have anything else before we get out of here?
I'm Gucci. GG.
Chat. We sure do appreciate you guys hanging out with us all night long while we talked about Ashes of Creation. We're going to go over here real quick and see if there's anybody that can be rated. Oh, Droog.
Bro,
Droog is talking.
Oh, what? Droog's on? Okay.
Well, who were you going to say?
Oh, no, Wolfheart's off now. Okay.
Oh, okay, Wolfheart's off. Yeah. No, we'll go hit up Droog. Give him all the love when we get over there. Drop those zillion emojis in the chat. As you should. And we appreciate you guys. Thank y'all for hanging out. Naval a couple years off, right? Wizzy's 100% right. All right. We're going over to Drew. Thanks for hanging, y'all. We'll see y'all later.
And you paid to skip all the story of the expansion.